Hey there, got a test on the 1920s coming up? You are in exactly the right place. But first, I want you to forget about this being a test. Think of it as a mission. For today, you're not just a student, you're a history detective, and we are about to crack this case wide open.
So let's get into it. Every single question on your test is a clue, and every answer choice, well, those are your suspects. Your job is to sift through all the evidence and uncover the truth. And don't you worry, I'm here to give you the detective's toolkit you need to get it done.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll hit the briefing and go over your toolkit. These are the techniques you're going to use. Then, we'll open up 3 different case files covering the big themes of the 1920s. All the social changes, that crazy industrial boom, and some of the tensions hiding just under the surface. And finally, we'll have a quick debrief to make sure you are absolutely ready for your mission.
You know, every great detective has a process, right? A specific way of looking at a crime scene. Well, this is ours. We're about to break down a super simple 3-step method that you can use for pretty much any question that comes your way.
It's really that simple. First up, you examine the evidence. What are the key words in the question? What is it actually asking? Second, you analyze the lineup of answers. And I can promise you, some of those are just there to throw you off track. We'll call them decoys. And third, once you've cleared away all those distractions, you just find the connection between the clues and the right historical context. Let's see how it works. So, our first case file drops us right into the heart of the Jazz Age. This was the time of massive, massive cultural change, where all the old rules were being challenged left and right. Let's start examining the evidence. Okay, detective, here we go. First clue. The question's asking for characteristics of the Roaring Twenties. So, step 1, examine the evidence. The keywords here are pretty obvious, Roaring Twenties. Our job is to find the terms that belong only to that decade. Now, this is where step 2, analyzing the lineup, becomes so useful. Just look at the other possible answers. You see New Deal and breadlines? That sounds a lot more like the Great Depression in the 1930s, right? Or McCarthyism? Nope, that's the Cold War, the 1950s. Internment camps? That's definitely World War II, so the 1940s. See what we did there? By just eliminating the decoys from other time periods, you get so much closer to your main suspect. Let's look at our next piece of evidence. The key phrase here, and you really gotta lock onto this, is unintended consequence. This just means the government did something, but it ended up causing something totally different to happen. We know speakeasies were these secret, illegal bars. So, what government action would have made bars illegal to begin with? And boom, here's the context we need. This is step 3, finding the connection. Prohibition made alcohol illegal. But the unintended consequence was that it didn't really stop people from drinking. It just forced all that activity underground, into places like speakeasies. You see that cause and effect? That's the kind of connection you're always looking for. Ah, the flapper. Such a huge cultural symbol of this decade. Now, this question asks about the influence on their popularity. So why did this totally new style and attitude get so popular? What was it a reaction to? Here is your biggest clue. Before the 1920s, society had these really strict, very traditional expectations for women. Well, flappers came along and just challenged all of it, with their fashion, their behavior, their new sense of independence. So when you're looking at your answer choices, you're looking for the one that really gets at this idea of a huge social change, a real break from the past. Okay, detective, let's switch hats. We're leaving the dance hall and heading over to the factory floor. Case file number 2 is all about the incredible economic and technological boom that really powered the Roaring Twenties. Henry Ford and the assembly line. This is a classic 1920s topic. The key word to zero in on here is immediate result. We're not looking for some long-term impact on all of society. We want to know what changed about the car itself right away because of his new process. And this chart right here, this is your smoking gun. Ford's entire idea was about making cars way faster and way more efficiently. And when you can make something faster, what happens to the cost? It goes down, way down. This visual shows that connection perfectly. Cars went from being a luxury item only for the rich to something an average family could actually hope to own. So, look for the answer that reflects that big change in accessibility. All right, next up, Charles Lindbergh, the famous hero pilot. The question's asking how he affected aviation. Now, he didn't invent the airplane, we know that. So what exactly was his contribution?
Think about that legendary flight he took across the Atlantic Ocean. What did that prove to the average person watching back home? This timeline really tells the story. The Wright brothers proved the flight was possible, sure, but for decades, most people thought it was just this incredibly dangerous stunt for daredevils. Lindbergh's successful solo flight in 1927 changed public perception almost overnight. It suddenly made aviation seem safe, reliable, even exciting. His flight gave the public a huge boost of confidence, which is what paved the way for commercial airlines to really take off. For our last case file, we've got to dig a little deeper. Because, the 1920s weren't just one big party. Underneath all that glitter and jazz, there were some really deep divisions and conflicts brewing over things like immigration, race, and politics. This is where the clues can get a little more complex. Political cartoons are one of a detective's best tools, but you have to know how to read them. This question wants you to decode the symbols. So, step 1, examine the evidence. What do you see? Who's on that ship? What's the ship's name? Every detail matters. Okay, let's break this down together. The name Soviet Ark is a massive clue, right? It's pointing straight to Russia and the Soviet Union. The people on board are labeled with different isms. These represent political ideologies. The historical context for all of this is the Red Scare, a time when there was this intense fear of communism in America. So you see, the cartoon isn't just about immigrants in general. It's about the radical ideas the artist was afraid they were bringing with them. Now, this question is about the Great Migration, that huge movement of African Americans from the rural South up to the urban North. The key word here is primary reason. Why did millions of people decide to make such a difficult journey? We have to think about what was pushing them out of the South, and at the same time, what was pulling them toward the North. And this slide lays out the whole case perfectly. The push factors were the awful conditions in the South, brutal Jim Crow laws, racial violence, and a sharecropping system that was basically designed to be a trap. The pull factors were the promise of the North, all those new factory jobs, the chance for better wages, and of course, the hope for more freedom. So when you look at your answers, you're looking for the one that captures one of those really powerful motivations. All right, detectives, we have gone through the case files. It is time for our final debrief. Now, we've cracked these specific questions, but the real mission here is to give you the skills you need to crack any question thrown your way. This is your toolkit. Don't forget it. Remember to decode visuals, look for the hidden messages. Always, always use the process of elimination to get rid of those decoys. Know your vocabulary, because words like prohibition and flapper are your best clues. And finally, always look for the story, the connection between cause and effect. That is how you solve the case. So I want you to remember this. The 1920s really set the stage for modern America. It was this incredible decade of mind-blowing technological change, but also deep, passionate arguments about who we are as a nation. So my last question to you is, where do you still see those echoes, the same arguments and innovations, playing out in our world right now? Because the investigation, well, it never really ends. Good luck on your mission.